Hi everyone, Janelle here. I'm a functional nutritionist and doctor of natural medicine. This is my podcast where we talk about midlife wellness in the mountains. Today I had the honor of sitting down with author Jules Blaine Davis, also known as the Kitchen Healer, to discuss our hunger for physical and spiritual nourishment. Jules gives us permission and ways to slow down our life, to tap into our personal stories. She explains how the kitchen is a safe place to feel all our feels. I love this unique conversation, and I am grateful to have this new awareness and ways to experience the kitchen and myself. Thank you so much for being here today, Jules. I am so excited to have you here to chat with us. So thank you.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So when I first got your book, I thought it was a cookbook, but it's not. It's more like a recipe book for like rediscovering who you are. And okay, well, your book is called The Kitchen Healer. And honestly, it reads like poetry. I kept reading it to my family out
Mm.
loud and quoting you and all this. And it's like oozing with this yin, feminine, creative energy. I just love it. But so much that you speak about in the book is about this hunger, right? So to start off, can you, and it's not necessarily a hunger for food. I mean, you beautifully weave that in, but can you touch on what you're talking about? Like, what is this hunger that we have?
Thank you. I love all of that. I love you reading it out to your family. I
They
mean, I
do too.
want to answer every question with a question, but I won't do that.
Thank you.
um, I'm like, well, what is your hunger? What is the hunger? I mean, I would say, I like to use analogies, which I think do come out as poetry. I think if we take our hunger down the hall, we find grief. So I just kind of cliff noted it for everybody. There's going to be a lot of other things. On the journey to grief, there's every single color. The emotions are Roy G. Biv. They come in primary, and then we go from there in the realms of custom hues. Um, and so, yeah, I think, talking about hunger in all its ways, in the book, as you know, there's an origin story of how it kind of came to be, this conversation that is wide and deep, about our hunger, both in and out of the kitchen, our fire, both in and out of the kitchen. But the beginning or the impetus was really, I was cooking and people would come over and be really curious about how I was doing it or what I was cooking. And it was very interesting to me. And then, of course, at that time, what I like to say in the field or the field of my life at that moment, right? Alice Waters was becoming more known, and Michael Pollan did his first documentary. And, people were becoming more known around food and consciousness. And then you had Elizabeth Gilbert and Brene Brown, and no authors had ever become famous, shamans in the culture for like taking big risks, really. Their stories were all about risk taking and becoming who they were. They all went on journeys to become who they were. And then they were, on stages sharing about it and became very famous due to that. So there was a hunger. There was a hunger in the culture for like I was watching all of that, like, oh, that was growing in the field and that was growing in the field. And at the time, for me, I was a new mom, um, in a home, on a mountain, alone, no tribe. Mom lived far away, all in good alignment there. But in the realms of, where did my husband just go? He had always worked. Um, but I joke about it, but it's actually, the joke is very deep and has so much grief in it, where, after a week or two of having my son Ocean, who just turned 18 on Thursday, um, I looked up and I was like, "Where are you going?" And he was like, "Work." And I was just like, "What?" You know? And so there's a hunger there in all those particular kind of seeds I just threw into our field here, right? It's like, wait, what just happened? And so right now, right in that moment, we're meeting the culture, the brokenness of the culture, my own hunger, my longing for a self that just died. Now a new self is becoming. I'm becoming a mom. I'm an artist. I'm all these things that I didn't know I was, or I didn't finish, or I didn't even get started. It's just such a full time of hunger.
Yeah. And one thing you just said that I wrote down was a hunger for becoming ourselves. Your entire book is these tangible ways to slow life down and bring meaning into it. And I think if we are going to rediscover ourselves, like we have to slow down. And you say that in your book. And that's a big topic for midlife women. And you talked about when you had your first baby, and that's one of our huge hormone shifts. And then we have that next one in perimenopause. And that's the other time when we like have these big like shakeups. And it's like, you wake up. Who the hell am I? Who the hell? And why is life moving so damn fast? And like you talk about in your book, our to-do lists, our go, 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 move so fast. And your book is such an awesome way to tap in. And it's doable in every moment. It's so doable. And I hope we're going to talk into that. But there's just so much depth to it that it's so exciting and it's so important. So you speak about our personal narratives a lot. And one of your practices is to journal about your mornings as a child. It's kind of like at the beginning. And I loved that. Why do you think that's important? Like both our narratives in general and how our mornings were as a child.
I love that question. Then I love the word narrative. I'm gonna offer even a rounder word, which for me is story. It just has like a rounder feeling. And because we have so many stories, we carry so many stories, and with those stories we're shaped, and some of them aren't even stories most of them aren't stories we were told. They're stories that were modeled. There's stories that were silent inheritances, like a legacy inheritance, that live in our bloodline. There are so many different emotional realms of story. And the beginning of our story really does begin upon waking up. I mean, definitely we could say birth, and I'm sure there's many people we both know, right? In that birth world, you might be, I'm not sure, but in the realms of like the hormones of birth and coming, being born and coming right on to, the breast, or the conscious bottle, whatever's happening in that realm, right? That's a waking up. And then, of course, the morning is a waking up. And in those places, the story begins. And so that's really where that came from. And it was a pretty poignant time for me. Of course, it was not linear, like, oh, how we woke up, it shapes our whole lives. Amazing. I think it was after gathering with hundreds and thousands of women and talking about the morning, because the morning is the beginning, and we begin again every single morning, and we're beginning. And what's in the field in that beginning? What's in the home? What's happening in the kitchen? And as I would listen to these stories, and of course I have a pretty poignant one too in the realms of my own kind of moment in life that really shaped me. Like, it was the beginning of my nervous system. It was, the morning was my mother. The morning was the kitchen, whether anything was going on in there or not. The morning is the kitchen. The morning is fire. The morning is light. The morning is so many things, right? And a lot of us don't want to get up early, or a lot of us die to get up early. They can't wait to get up early, and there's a story there. There's a reason why we're the way we are. That's not surprising. But when we really go deeper in, it's like, oh, yeah, how I woke up. Yeah, I woke up to the garage door closing. I woke up to, what were the senses? What were the five senses? What was happening in the house? And every person, even if they forgot their childhood and can't remember anything, which is the majority of people I work with and know, they can go to something. On the weekends, it was lighter. Oh, I loved Christmas morning. Oh, right? Maybe people can't remember like Monday through Friday, or they can't remember when they were 8, but they remember that the shower was never free because they had 5 siblings. Or they remember something in the resonance, not just necessarily the kitchen, is the shaping. So we begin there because that is the beginning.
That makes perfect sense, and I didn't connect that. But when I was going out for a run with my girlfriends a few days ago, and I was telling them I was having you on, and I started with that, and we could have run for like 10 hours and talked about the different parts of your book, but I brought that up, and oh my gosh, they just both went into their mornings, and we didn't think it was very deep, and then we started saying like, oh my gosh, I had to care for my brother. And there were all of these morning stories. It was beautiful. So even just for a topic of wonderful conversation with your girlfriends, I love that you start there and you have people journal about your mornings and just an
Right. Yeah.
awareness. And you always say in your book, it's not about blaming. If your mornings weren't wonderful, we don't blame someone. Our parents did the best they could, or our caretakers. So I love that you started there, and it makes so much sense now that you say it. It's the time when we wake up every day. It's a new beginning.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you had mentioned the heart work. So in the book, there's, as you were saying, there's different kinds of heart work where you can stop and take a breather. You can open to the book at any page. You can, there's different ways. People have it on their bedside table. If people get into it like you did, where they realize, oh, it's not a cookbook and it just doesn't go on the shelf with the other ones and make a pretty bind, which it is pink and amazing. But then they're like, oh, wait, I want to kind of take this with me to, the soccer game, or I want to take this with me to wherever they're going, waiting for at the doctor's office. So, so yeah, the heart work, and I really offer and invite everyone to, write in the book, write in the book. It's hardcover. So that's already kind of like a rewritten story of imprinting yourself in the book because it's a legacy piece. And so, yeah, the heart work for, essentially how the mornings went. The reason why we're doing that in the beginning of the book is because at some point we're going to look at how you wake up now. And from that, like if it was a line in a linear, how I woke up to the left and then all the way to the right was how I wake up now. That middle of that entire line is our lives and the stories we carry and what I call the middle way. And how so much of that is the same. Like meaning how we wake up now is so similar to how we woke up, whether it's our anxiety or it's another day, or really chipper and ready and go, 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 go. It could be any of those. I'm sure there's many other ways to wake up. And so when we get to see that, we go, wow, that's pretty profound. Did you find that when you were with your girlfriends? Like, did you get to that kind of place?
We absolutely did. And I think what you're speaking into is the first step of, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but the first step of creating the life you want is recognizing where you are. And that's what this felt like to me, is like just an awareness, like where am I coming from? How did I grow up? Where did it come from? Not judging. And so that's where we like, yes, we all were just, oh, I wonder if that has to do with that. I mean, you don't understand, Jules. We did. We were talking about like different secure attachment and like, oh, maybe
Yes.
that came from that. I mean, we went there.
Yeah.
And that's only the very beginning of the book. I mean, so I think just setting the stage for that awareness, and then the heart work you speak of gives us these tangible ways to change our mornings and make them feel good. And I work with so many people, I'm sure you do. I'm so busy. And we are. I'm not saying we're not. I mean, I also have to work and I also have a family. I mean, life has real demands and people get stuck, I think. They get stuck, overwhelmed. I want to have this different life and this different experience, and I don't know how. And your book gives small, itty bitty steps. And so
Mm.
I would love for you, I mean, you have several, not too many, but you have several you give opportunities to people to slow down their morning and create mindfulness and intention. And I would love for you to speak into the fire aspect.
Yeah, I love that setup, and also that's what I was thinking. It's just, um, I think that the cultural sell is that we're gonna feel like it. We're gonna feel like turning on the fire. We're gonna feel like, that like we almost like make it like a fantasy or a luxury that we're gonna have the early morning. And I think that's just really killed it for us. It's really especially for those of us that are so hungry to keep doing, thinking that when we get to that bottom of the to-do list, if there even is one, that it's going to sate this, essentially in recovery we call it God-shaped hole. It's like it's not. um it's not, because it just keeps going. And if the shaping was that, then, because so many of the women who came before us doing, and capability was identity. So we are rewriting as we become knowledgeable of it, we are rewriting their story. And it's no small feat to rewrite their story. So yeah, I wake up and I have candles kind of all over the house. And Um, it's a very basic beeswax pillar candle. It's not, like, scented or anything. It's just it's almost like a basic, ingredient to the morning. And, like, even this morning, I woke up and now the season's changing, even here in Los Angeles, and it's a little darker when I wake up in the morning, and so I love that. I'm, like, looking around for the matches, and I don't wanna turn the lamp on. I just don't wanna turn on the light. I wanna light it, and there's something to it. There's something to lighting the fire. Not only is it bigger than me and I get to honor it, because I definitely didn't do that, in the realms of the wax and the wick, the idea that I can light a small candle and it lights up the whole room. I mean, isn't that everything? Like, we turn on the fire and it lights up the whole room. It warms something, it lightens the anxiety or heaviness. So, turning on the fire in the mornings is huge for me, because it is the first thing I do. I'm not thinking about how I'm feeling. I just can't see. Both emotionally and physically, even if the sun is out, I light the candle in the kitchen, um, and then I turn on the kettle. And so then I'm at another fire. And then maybe while I'm waiting for it to boil, there's 7,000 things I could do, or I just stretch right there. Just like try to get to my toes. And so yeah, there's something to lighting that fire, which of course you can intention the fire. There are many days I do that where I intention, please take this, or show me the way, show me what you need me to see, to anything greater than you. I mean, that truly is the way out of suffering. I mean, every single person that you admire, every healer, every anything, religious, non-religious, spiritual, it's something greater. And the fire is something greater. It is. It's just I like, if I lit a match to myself, I would not become on, I would maybe go on fire, but I mean, I wouldn't light the way. It's like it's pretty fascinating. And of course, making a fire, which where you are, I'm sure you do that often. I do that in the backyard here, and women gather around, and also I've done that for many years, or in the house, a fire. But the one that's more accessible in the day to day, you know, is the candle. So that is a very beautiful small step. You may have heard this saying, but it's like, may the bar be low so you can step over it. And I feel like that's definitely one of those things. The work is solution oriented, because that seems to be the way. Like, do this and watch things transform, do this and watch things change, do the light a candle for 10 days every morning and see how things shift. Have things shifted for you?
Yeah, I've always lit a candle first thing in the morning. So I just have done it instinctually. I love it.
Love it.
I think there's something so primal about
Mm.
it. I think there's a primal level, but then I also think what you were speaking into, which is like it just is intention. Like it's something we do
Yeah.
every day. Every day we wake up. Every day we turn a light on. But when we just do the small step of lighting the candle, we just bring intention to it and mindfulness, and it takes 10 seconds. It's so doable and feels so good. So I love that one. I love that you have that in the book. We obviously can't go into all the ones that you have. You have a beautiful breath exercise that is so simple and so doable and so powerful because it again just brings a mindfulness to every second of the day. I love that. I think you say something about like, don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now. And a candle can help you start now. A breath can help you start now. Um, Even the recipes in your book, they're very doable. I mean, they are not
Mhm.
fancy. They are everyday recipes, and they do more than just make yummy food. Like they soothe the soul, and they do help us somehow rediscover ourselves. And maybe it's just again that we're thinking about things differently. Like when you discuss cooking and planting your roots into the earth, maybe it's just that shift in a mindset of,
Mm.
oh, my shoulders just melted and now I'm calm. And um, there's just so many opportunities in this book for transformation. I love it. So, I mean,
Mm.
it is called The Kitchen Healer. So I would love to ask you about, I love how you say, and I find this so true. The kitchen holds space for all of our emotions and
Mm.
how you can bring your emotions to the kitchen. Can you, and you spoke earlier about grief, how grief works well in the kitchen. And in the book, you say, something about cake batter and grief, I think, or sauteing onions and grief. Can you speak into how the kitchen is there for us, like for all of our emotions?
Mm. Yeah. The I mean, really, it's just a true story, and the true story of it is we're in the kitchen. Whether we want to be or not, we're in there. And I think that maybe why it's so like, oh my gosh, we can do that, is because cooking and the act of cooking was separate, or it seemed separate from living and feeling. And again, if those listening are like, what? I live to cook, that it's not you, but it's the women around you who are like, oh my god, I love how you do that, and I just never did that. No, I could never do that. Or yeah, it's not for me. And it's like, really, is it not for you? I'm not so sure. I think it's because it wasn't modeled, or I don't know how to do it inside my life, or there's too much going on, or my mom died when I was young, and that died too. Or I mean, the stories are, layered, and there are many different ways to carry them and different stories to carry. So I would say, yes, the separation is where the suffering is. The separation that, to make dinner, just like put that feeling in the corner, or let me, put that feeling in my room and I'll get to it later. And then it's like, oh, no, 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 don't do that. Bring it. And also, we don't have the bandwidth. Like, I don't know about you, but now is the new later. There's no later. And of course, as we have kids, and also our marriages and our lives, like life in the world is full to digest, right? So where do we break it down? Where do we bring it into our hands? Where do we have control in the kitchen. And I think that, I don't think I've ever said that before, and there's something to agency and discernment to what happens in there. And we get to bring our grief and our feelings and our joy, our everything. It's not just for celebrating and it's a party. I think that's the other piece, right? Is like, oh my God, I'm going to make a wood board love, and I'm having people over, or I'm not, or I'm going to just have it out for the kids, or I'm going to have it. And, we separate ourselves. We don't even maybe eat it. We're like getting it ready for the group. And so my work is this ongoing, and really it's not my work. I believe it's our work. It's the invitation of inviting us all to be in the middle way, like nourish too, nourish with your kids, nourish, to be doing the dishes, and having them eat, like sit, like we're just modeling doing. And but again, that might need to get done a lot of the time, great too. Like, it's all a yes and so yeah, you can bring that grief into the kitchen. I've brought in such deep fear in the kitchen. I've brought in being frozen. I bring in all of those all the time. Make a soup. I have no idea if I'm even hungry for soup. I just know I need to make something. I just know I need to turn on the fire. I know I need to go tend the fruit in the bowls. I need to be doing and access my being. And that, I feel, you can really do. You can do that throughout the house and in the garden. But my work has become, and has always been, the kitchen, because it's also like we're creating something to nourish, this being something that happened in early motherhood, right? So couldn't be in the garden and feed everybody. I mean, you can it's a long game, but not right off the bat, unless it's harvest day, and then we're going to make our way into the kitchen. So it's like we're always in the kitchen. Funeral, wedding, divorce, affair. We find ourselves talking about everything in the kitchen, right?
Absolutely. It is. It's where everyone hangs out at my house for sure. And same with at home. And I think your book also, it even just gives people permission to feel in the kitchen. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's, I just never thought about it before I read your book.
Mm.
And so I feel like now I know, like, okay, I'm simmering soup. Just notice, like, oh, what am I feeling right now? Or whatever it is. Like, I just love that whole idea, just the awareness that you can think about your feelings while you're in the kitchen, and it's a perfect place to do that. But I have to ask you, because this is we don't have a ton of time left, and I really wanted to ask you about this one thing, and I know you probably guess what it's going to be, but you speak about all these different dishes, but I love the idea of a love board. I mean, I think this is another thing that anyone can just jump into, and it feels so good. And what you were just saying, if your friend, if she's divorcing her husband and she's in tears, make a love board. If your son's graduating from college, make a love board, like whatever, right? Like, I love your morning love boards ideas. Like, your kids are waking up, you've got to get to work. Oh my God, make a love board. So Can you tell us what a love board is?
I mean, you're doing great. You're
I
like
love
you
it.
you kind of have it down. Yeah, I mean, we're all, going to be hungry at some point. So the number one thing I say, and I really can't like invite this enough into our lives, is to not ask anybody if they're hungry, to not ask anybody what they want. No one knows what they want. And again, it's so edgy to say, oh my God, yes, I do. And I'm finally finding my voice. That's not what I mean. I help women find their voice. Yay, let's break free. I'm helping me find my voice in all the different ways. What I mean by that is we're going to need to eat. And so cut up some food and put it on a love board. The boards that I have in my love shop, which is on my site, are heart boards. They're legacy pieces, kind of like the Beatrix Potter. It's kind of like this is the new wave of just having a heart in front of you with food on it. Not waiting for the party to have the charcuterie board or whatever. Again, it's that event like angst I talk about so much in the book, that event like experience. It's like, oh, we can do that at any point. And it's interesting the way it happens, right? So I cut food up on a wood board. It's like I'm cutting up apple, I'm cutting up a date and taking the seed out and putting it on a little vessel nearby. I'm putting olives down, I'm putting whatever, and it's all open. I don't have like small bowls that are kind of closed. There is actually a psychological piece to this thing. So woodboard love is that I would wake up, grab the bread knife, not a regular knife because I didn't have time to sharpen it, and I would just cut up some strawberries and not put the strawberries there whole. I cut them in half, cut the tops off. They're gone in a second from when they got home, from when they get home, when somebody's traveling. There's a wood board in the car. People are hungry. We are hungry. All of us, we're hungry to be nourished. And just a little something regulates the brain, which was a very selfish thing. Because if my kids were regulated, then I was going to be maybe a better parent. I don't know. But, it really came from very practical things like, oh, I could go make a tea or go pee and I'm going to have a huge wood board out. So they're not waiting for dinner. No one's waiting to eat. And so, they're very practical. And yet there's also a lot of poetic healing in there too, right?
Yeah, and they invite the group in. And another whole aspect of your book that I love is, and you'll correct me and say it how you mean it, is something about how the group gives us courage to understand ourselves better and our own truth, and we find our truth through other people being brave and speaking their truth. And that almost seems like that could just happen around a love board.
It does every single time, because when we're nourished, we drop in to our bodies. When we're nourished, right? It's the part of us that's saying, oh, no, I'm not hungry, is just a part of us that has gotten through everything, and God love her. And also, the part of us that eats and is nourished and drops in, softens, that's the shoulders down. That's okay, having a moment here. And then from that place, I'm now having a conversation with you that would be very different from a non-nourished place. So that only offers more love into the circle. That only offers more access to myself, is a healing for the whole. That's why our healing is essential to the earth's healing, is essential to our world's healing. It's not an I conversation, it's a we conversation. So when this is like, oh, we're just talking about olives and strawberries, but are we? I mean, we're talking about and the love tea, and we're having a warm tea, and we're having our wood board love, and it's so simple. I didn't make a coq au vin a thing. I'll order that later, right? It's the wood board. And yeah, so those things, when we're nourished, I mean, we all know it, right? Like you're nodding your head. It's like me too. Like when I'm nourished, and I can go hours without eating. I can get into doing. I'm a fire. I'm like totally like going to get it all done. And forget to nourish. And it's like, oh, no, 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 nourish a little something, a little 3-minute egg, a little something. Okay, now I'm going to serve my client better. I'm going to da da da. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to serve in the best way I can. I'm here to nourish, not just because I'm the kitchen healer, but as almost like my devotion to being alive is to offer back to the earth. And that's a very deep, wide, beautiful conversation that, to be an offering. It's like, oh yeah, to be an offering. Oh no, it's not just getting everything done in the laundry and the thing. Oh, if I'm an offering, if I'm a steward or of an offering, what am I? What am I? And I can't access that if I'm hungry.
Yeah, and you provide so many great ways of doing just that. Even your beauty water. I mean, it reminded me what you were just saying of that. I love your beauty water. I mean, how simple, right? Like cucumbers and herbs and that offering, that beauty. And so I think so much of your book, Jules. I think it's amazing. I think everyone needs it. And I think the world would be a better place if we incorporated your sweet, sweet ideas into our everyday life because they have profound transformational potential. I really do think that. That sounds so cheesy, but I actually really think that. And I'm really grateful for it. So again, thank you so much for your book. Everybody, why don't you tell everyone where can they find you?
Um, well, I'm here in Los Angeles. So if they ever want to come over, they can. And yeah, I just want to say one last thing before we close is just I really believe this is our conversation. It's like the women who find this work inspiring and supportive and like sometimes like oxygen. It's just I put language to something. It's like you put language to something. Like we're just putting language to something. Like I'm hungry for this conversation over and over and over again in every way it seems to show up. And so I feel like it's not my work. I really feel like it's our work. It's just my hue to bring it back from the beginning. It's like this is my color. At the moment, I have so many that I'm gonna offer in this lifetime. This is my tikkun olam, which in Yiddish is mending of the world. And so this is something I needed and I still need. And so I keep tending it and offering women to come and join me. So, yeah, so on that note, yeah, my book is everywhere you can buy books. And the beauty of the book is that it's on audiobook now. It just got launched as an audiobook and it's me reading to you, which I'm so like loving. I wanted to do that from the get-go. When I was writing the book, I was speaking it aloud. And I just saw myself reading it to anyone that wanted to hear it. And so it's now on audio. You can get it on Spotify. You can get it on Audible and anywhere where there's audiobooks. And then, of course, my website, julesblainedavis.com, has all the things. I work one-on-one with people. I have a book club right now that is gorgeous circle of women via Zoom. So there's a newsletter via my website. And of course, there's Instagram, and that's at Jules B. Davis, the Instagram. Reach out. I am accessible and I love connecting to everyone that is connected to this work because I keep learning from you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for this wisdom and sharing it with us. And thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Bye, Jules. That's it for this week. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a comment and a review as that helps it reach more people. You can find me and the courses I teach, the Midlife Hormone Club and the Energy Club, online at Mountain Rebalance. I help midlife women understand their body and age better. If that sounds like you, please join my newsletter. And if there's a topic you'd like me to cover here or an expert you want me to have on, let me know. In the meantime, keep playing, and here's to aging our best.